Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Monday Night Therapy with John and Todd. And tonight it's Todd. John is up in the North Woods. He is in northern Minnesota, taking some time away to do some fishing. He posted some photos in the last couple of days to show everybody where he's at, and he was overdue to take some time away and enjoy being out on the water and hopefully catching some fish. So John's gone fishing, and I'm going to try to fly solo tonight. I thought we had arranged to have another Desperado here joining me and tag teaming on this, but apparently communication got mixed up a little bit. So we better figure out how to make this work here. So in thinking about that, I have a number of things that I'm going to throw out there to discuss here tonight, but I think also we'll try to make this as interactive as we can. I'll try to keep my eyes on the comments a little bit and kind of go with where you guys are at in terms of some of the things that you want to talk about. Right now, James Marshall says, "Did John bring Frost along?" I don't think there's a boat big enough for John to share some space with the former guy. Not really a fan, and I think that might cause a little more stress than what John wants to have while he's out throwing some worms and some lures out there trying to catch some fish. So doubtful that he made it. And Brian, yes, I made it, and we have things operating, hopefully, or at least it appears on my end that we got it done. One of the things I will throw out here and thank John for is he gave me some nice step-by-step directions on how to navigate this and make sure that we had it running and the intro came on. So, it's a little glitchy, but hopefully as I work through the night, it will be a little bit smoother. As I said in a comment that I posted up there, we're 9 days to the best day of the year. Nebraska is going to kick off the 2023 football season Thursday night on August 31st. So the countdown certainly is within single digits now. But to deviate just a smidge from football, just for a moment here, Nebraska athletics are starting this week. It looks like the volleyball team has their red-white scrimmage on Saturday. I'm sure that's probably sold out like anything involving volleyball in the state of Nebraska. And I think the first competitive first competitive game that counts is the soccer team on Sunday is going to play against Baylor. So, hey, fall is here. Fall sports are starting up. It's a good time. It's a good time to be a Nebraska fan. So, I think Brian and I must be on the same wavelength. I think the place to start here, and Brian Lanhula says, inquiring minds want to know, was Betts making too many bets, so thought he better just leave before crap hit the fan. That kind of segues into a topic that I had written down to discuss a little bit later in the show, but let's talk about the situation with Xavier Betts. For the second time since he came to Nebraska, he has left the team. There's a level of frustration by many fans on Corn Nation in the article that was written late last week, I guess, actually. Some people came out with some very strong opinions on both sides. There are people who believe that, he made a commitment to the team, that others are depending upon him. and he's walking out. Some people are, referring to him as a quitter, and some people are using a little bit stronger language than that. On the flip side of that, you have people that are saying, don't begrudge him. It's his decision. If he has other things that he wants to do with his life, good luck to him. Maybe he has some other things that he has an interest in and that he wants to pursue. I don't know for sure about any reason. It sounded like it caught the coaching staff, off guard. Coach Rule was quoted, shortly after it happened that he did not see it coming. People felt like things were going well. You heard his name mentioned a number of times when coaches met with the media and asked about, how are the wide receiver groups coming along. So it pretty much looked like he was destined to be, a starter, a player that was going to be utilized quite a bit. And so, I guess I'm gonna choose my words a little bit carefully here. I don't want to ignite a battle that doesn't need to be ignited. I guess I've always been, and with my background a little bit in athletics, primarily high school athletics, I subscribe to the philosophy it's team before me. I know that it's different in this day and age, with NIL and people doing what's in their best interest. And, we can debate that as much as we want. But for me, the term that I came up with myself was I'm disappointed because other people were counting on him. The team was counting on him to be there. And I think it's a shame that this close to the season he's chosen not to be part of the team. If he was a young man that was lower down the proverbial depth chart, then maybe I could handle a little bit better. But this is a guy that they had plans for, and it's too bad in my mind that he's not going to be there. John Schmidt posts if he didn't want to be there, he was going to let them down anyway. That makes sense. Players have a tendency if they don't want to be there, or if they're angry or upset or whatever, they can be a bigger problem than they're more of a problem than a solution. How about that? So, that certainly could be the case. I guess the thing with me that I think back to the early days of Xavier Betts. He had all the physical talent in the world, according to people that got to watch him play, got to watch him practice, maybe saw him play in high school. Physical gifts that very few people have. But there's another aspect to this, the mental aspect of the game, and whether he, I'll tell you what, if you're going to play college sports, you better like it. If you're going to be a college athlete, then you better enjoy what you're doing. The time commitment that these guys make, the prep that they have to put forward, it's an incredible commitment. It is amazing to me the time that these people are engaged in college athletics. And so, if you don't like it, then don't be out there. But like I said, it's tough for the team because the team was counting on him. So let's move off Xavier Betts a little bit. Still focusing on football here. One of the things that Nebraska fans and I'm really kind of curious here. We haven't heard a whole lot about it, but it seems like every fall about now, when are they gonna give out the black shirts? When are we gonna know who the black shirts are? And here we are. We're 9 days away from the season. We don't have black shirts. There's no depth chart. And, a lot of the traditionalists, that makes them really queasy if they don't have that depth chart to refer to. So no black shirts, no depth chart. But what we do have is something that Matt Rule has brought to the program, and that is the single-digit numbers. We'll come back to that here in just a second, because before I forget this one, I will respond to this. Ted Hilker says, who's the fastest guy on the team now? Most likely it's Malachi Coleman, would be my bet. Malachi Coleman, was an incredible sprinter, but, there could be somebody else. I know Tommy Hill is fast, but I would venture to say that maybe Malachi Coleman is. Dion, I doubt Ben Hart is the fastest. I would be surprised if he is, but maybe that off-season program that they have him on, reshaping his body, working on his footwork, maybe he is in the argument. So, and then Cornhusker Corner says Bryce Turner is the fastest, but to be surprised if he saw the field this year. Bryce, I haven't. Cornhusker Corner, I haven't dug back into some of the recruiting information. I know that they have brought some real speed merchants into the recruiting class. I know there's a bunch of sprinters, particularly from Texas, that are going to play both football and track. I was thinking that might be with the next recruiting class, but perhaps not. Anyway, let's talk just a little bit about the single digit thing. So for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, and I would guess most of you do because you're fans just like me, Matt Rule, when they published the first roster, and even going into spring ball, and especially over the course of the summer, there was not a player on the team that had a single digit number. So, from 0 to 9, nobody was assigned that number. Over the years, the single digit number has become a commodity, a hot commodity, I suppose, among a lot of players. Heck, you even see nose guards with a single digit number. I think Purdue had a big old nose guard or defensive tackle that wore number 9. So, the idea of having that single digit number, what Coach Rule decided he was going to do was that you had to earn it. And so those 10 single digits were going to be awarded to the 10 toughest players on the team. Now, there's an exception to that because offensive linemen cannot wear a single digit number. Offensive linemen have to wear a number, in the 50s or the 60s, maybe the 70s, I think, as well. But they cannot wear a single digit number. So, they might be recognized as one of the 10 toughest players, which I would assume that they would, announce to everyone that, if there was an offensive lineman that got that recognition. But as it stands right now, there are 4 players that have been awarded single-digit numbers. Billy Kemp, the 4th, wide receiver that transferred in from Virginia, he is going to wear number 1. Isaac Gifford, who they've been praising him ever since spring. It sounds like he's turning into kind of a JoJo Doman type of player. He is going to wear number 2. And then Luke Reimer, the linebacker, is going to wear number 4. He'll be wearing the same number as one of Nebraska's all-time great linebackers, Levante David. And then Jeff Sims, the quarterback, is going to wear number 7. So with that being said, there are still 6 single-digit numbers to go. So I assume that before the first game, those numbers will get parceled out. Um, and I guess we'll just wait and see to who some of the toughest Nebraska players are. So that being said, um, maybe we'll see the single digits come out around the same time as the black shirts come out. I know that uh, Fred Sacco has said whatever Rule does with the black shirts will be a splash thing, I figure, and it's kind of nice leaving everything in the dark. And yeah, F Minnesota. So I've never been one that gets real anxious about the black shirts. I think it's a great tradition. I'm glad that tradition, continues. And there have been sometimes over the years where um, they've kind of changed it up a little bit, and uh, you know, I guess we'll see how it goes here. Um, on the issue of jerseys and numbers, Linda Wilkins says, Todd, what are your thoughts on awarding an offensive lineman the right to wear one of the retired numbers? I didn't read the article today, but I know that Tom Chattel with the Omaha World Herald has tossed out the idea of utilizing, some of the legacy numbers as special numbers. Um, I just I don't know. I have kind of mixed feelings about that a little bit, and I'll just kind of explain where I'm coming from with this. In terms of, I guess the best example out there, I can think of two. Um, LSU to wear number 18 has special meaning. Um, I don't know what the history is. Maybe someone can put that in the chat if you know what the history is behind number 18 at LSU. But that is a highly sought after uniform number. They give it to a very special player each year, and there's a lot of meaning that's associated with it. The other one that I can think of is at Texas A&M. They give the number 12 out to a special teams player that represents the 12th man, which is kind of a Texas Aggie tradition down there. And that's kind of neat too. You have the opportunity to be honored by wearing that jersey number. Linda, with your thoughts here, what are your thoughts about awarding an offensive lineman the right to wear one of the retired numbers? I guess my first comment might be a little bit flippant, but I believe this. You can't retire all the numbers, and as many good offensive linemen that Nebraska has had. I mean, you think through the years with the Lombardi winners and the Outland winners and all of that type of thing. They've retired quite a few numbers on the offensive line. And so I kind of like this idea that, taking some of those legacy numbers and that's not my phrase. I don't know where it came from, but I do kind of like the idea of awarding certain numbers to honor certain players to current players who reach, who earn them. Let's just put it that way, who earn them. And, that would make a lot of sense to me. Certainly you have some sacred numbers around here, folks. 22 is awful sacred. 93, that's a sacred number. 30. There's some of those numbers out there that, you just, you never know. And maybe someday, the Sam Foltz number, the Brooke Behringer number, maybe something special might be attached to that. Let's kind of go with this. Branson here, folks. What will be Nebraska's strongest and weakest unit this year? I think their strongest unit is going to be the defensive backfield, simply because they have so many returning veteran players there. But I'm also going to say, and I might be in the minority here, I think quarterback is going to be an area of strength. You know, Jeff Sims is playing well from all accounts. They have just been praising the heck out of Chubba Purdy in where he's come in the last couple of weeks. And we got Heinrich there as well, who actually, filled the number 2 spot coming into fall. Heinrich Harburg. I tell you what, I'm excited about quarterback, and I think it's going to be a position that's going to surprise. Obviously, the health of the quarterback is pivotal, but I think that's going to be a strong unit as well. Weakest unit, everybody picks on the line, and I think the offensive line is going to be better. I guess if I had to pick a spot that I'm a little bit worried about, it might be the defensive line, and it might be the wide receivers with the attrition that we've seen, with wide receivers. And, I think that could be a problem. One other unit that I'll throw out there that could concern me, depending upon how the chips fall, is tight end. We got Borkacher coming back. Fedoni hasn't played a snap in a real game. He's coming off 2 years of missing with knee injuries. And Eric Gilbert has yet to be declared eligible by the NCAA. So we could be short. We could be short in that area of offense. So that could be problematic, if you ask me. Back to, and James, I appreciate this comment as well. James Marshall says the black shirts will matter again when the defense returns to suffocating opponents' running games. Yeah, I agree with that. But and James, I'm not saying that I'm not saying you said this, but there have been some people that have said, if they don't rise to a certain level, they shouldn't have the black shirts. I know, they pulled black shirts last year. I'll tell you what, I think that there has to be some continuation of a tradition so that it is meaningful. And maybe there does need to be a standard of play, but for many, many years, Nebraska has started the season awarding the black shirts to the top defenders. And I think they should continue doing that. But I agree with you. They'll matter when Nebraska's defense actually is better and they step up to the plate. Let me see. What else do we have here? Who would it be? Who would it be number 60 for Tom Novak? Yeah, the numbering systems have changed a little bit over the years. So, that would be problematic there. Scrolling down here a little bit. Yeah, I agree that quarterbacks, wide receivers may be wanting, and we'll have to just see how that all goes. And I want to come back to the whole black shirt thing. One of the things that I think is important is that they don't, I can't remember who the head coach was. It might have been back in the Callahan or Riley days. Sounds something like they might do. They were handing out like 15, 16, 17 black shirts. Now, there's 11 players on defense, 12 if you want to count a nickel, that guy who comes in under those certain circumstances. But you don't hand out willy-nilly black shirts just because a guy makes a start or whatever. And looking at the comments now as I finally scrolled down here a little bit, this is hard. hard keeping up with the comments and just jabbering away like I'm jabbering away. I think both lines, certainly have question marks, and I think it's a very legitimate concern. So, couple of other things, or a few other things that I wrote down, and I know that a lot of you folks are probably paying more attention to some of this stuff than I am. But one of the services came out today, media services, with the preliminary top 25, and Nebraska actually is playing in a conference that has 5 teams rated in the preseason top 25. The first at the top is ranked number 2 is Michigan. They're beginning the season ranked number 2 behind Georgia. Michigan actually did get a couple of first place votes, but they're sitting there as the favorite Big Ten team. And then ranked number 3 right behind him is Ohio State. So Nebraska does not play Ohio State this year, but we do get to play Nebraska. Then the next highest ranked Big Ten team is Penn State. They have Penn State ranked number 7. So 3 Big Ten teams in the top 10. The other 2 teams at number 19 is Wisconsin. And then at number 25 are the Iowa Hawkeyes. So we can use that as a little bit of fire next week when we blow up the Iowa Hawkeyes on Monday Night Therapy, where we're going to exclusively degrade the black and gold from across the river. So let's see what else we got here. Let's see. Linda throws out thoughts on some thoughts of the new rules that will be implemented this year. The only new rules that I've paid any attention to, and there's certainly others maybe that I've missed, but the ones that I found most interesting is how they're going to deal with keeping the ball live when the ball goes out of bounds, and it's going to be very much like the NFL, where they don't necessarily stop the clock, and it's going to speed up the game, and it's also going to require that teams have a little bit different strategy in clock management. So I'm kind of interested to see how all of that is going to impact the game. But really, that's the only one that I've paid a whole lot of attention to, other than, and I'm not going to dig into it any deeper than that because I just know the surface level. But for those of you that are familiar with option football, in this day and age, the only teams in recent years that have really run an option offense have been the service academies. And Army, under Coach Monken, has run it very, very well. They basically run a double wing and run the option off of that double wing. And they've been in a very effective ball control offense. And, they can just grind the ball down the field. He's moving away from that. And the reason that he's moving away from that is because they are changing some blocking rules outside of the line of scrimmage, the box, I guess, so to speak. And they've changed. They're outlawing some blocks below the waist that he believes were critical to the effectiveness of a running offense like that. And if he can't get blockers out around the corner and seal off by blocking below the waist, he doesn't think that they can effectively run that offense. So, that blocking change, certainly can have an impact as well with what's going on. Let's see. Chuck Martin, 17. Did I count wrong? I was thinking we're 9 days away. No? Are we 17? Today is the 4th. Yeah, we are. My bad. My bad on that. Let's see. I think this is a Nebraska rule. Roger Moore writes, first rule, no onside kicking while leading. I think that would be a good rule for Nebraska. Fred Sacco, we talked about this just a few minutes ago, and I think it's worth kind of exploring a little bit further. Still don't get the love for Wisconsin with such high ratings considering breaking in new offensive scheme. I listened when I was driving one day to some people talking about Wisconsin's offense. And they are returning probably the best running back in the Big Ten. And they are not going to go throwing winging and zinging the ball all over the field and forgetting all about the running game is what I heard. And they will still have a very run heavy kind of an offense to take advantage of him. And so I agree with you. I think, I would take a wait and see before I would, start penciling them in for being, for winning the Big Ten West. But as was also mentioned by some people that I was listening to, the quarterback, this Mordecai that they're bringing in, he's very comfortable in the offense. And it's not Callahan came in and put the West Coast offense in place and had to fit that square peg into a round hole called Joe Daly. And so, at least they believe they've got the kind of personnel to quarterback that offense. They've recruited very effectively with wide receivers, which they feel good about. And so, I guess why not Wisconsin is kind of the attitude that I think some of the prognosticators have. So, let's see. What else do we have? Let's see. Yeah, the cut block. Where are we at? Yeah, I'm going to put this one up here because I wasn't aware of that. Linda Wilkins mentions coach cannot call for a review without throwing the challenge flag and having a timeout. I thought that's the way it was. No, or could the coach just ask? I don't. Honestly, I don't know. But I think we've had video review in place long enough that. Quite honestly, I don't know that coaches should really have to ask for a review. As prominent as it's been, you would think that darn near every play could be reviewed. With as many cameras as they have on fields now during games, it makes sense to me. But I guess I don't know. So. With that, moving along. A couple of things that another thing I wanted to throw out here, and since they are the neighbors to the east here a little bit, I'm sure that a lot of you have seen the news about the gambling that has put a number of Iowa Hawkeyes and Iowa State Cyclones in trouble. The Deckers kid, the quarterback from Iowa State, in all likelihood, his career is over. And then, there have been a number of Iowa Hawkeye players and a number of Iowa State Cyclones that it has been announced recently that they will have charges filed against them for basically tampering with information. This all got started back in May, actually a little bit before May, when the Iowa Gaming Commission started doing some investigating of some illegal or what they felt was illegal online gambling. And as they started digging into this a little bit, they were discovering that a lot of the online betting that they suspected was coming from Iowa City and Johnson County and Story County up in Ames. And at one point in time, they named 26, 28 students I guess not a coach necessarily, but certainly somebody on the staff that they were investigating. Back in the baseball season, Iowa's best offensive player, Keaton Anthony, was accused, and he never saw the field again after the word broke that he was under investigation. The interesting thing that I have found is that the Iowa Hawkeye players that have been identified, most of them have transferred to other colleges or universities. Arlen Bruce maybe would be the most famous of the football players. He transferred down to Troy. The Iowa State players, on the other hand, most of them are still in Ames, and some of them are pretty solid contributors. But, I found it really interesting where, about 10 days ago, Kirk Ferentz was in front of the media saying that he felt that the consequences for gambling, the rules for gambling, and the penalties for gambling needed to be rewritten, that they needed to be reassessed because, the prevalence of gambling is pretty high anymore. And, gambling is legal in the state of Iowa for people of legal age. And so in essence, he does have a lineman that is still in trouble that hasn't been cleared yet. That's a pivotal player that was supposed to speak at Big Ten Media Days. But, he was out there kind of talking about, hey, we need to go a little bit lighter on this. And then what happened is the Gaming Commission started releasing more names. And these players were betting on Iowa Hawkeyes, were betting on Iowa games, and Iowa State Cyclones were betting on Iowa State games. And they released a little bit of information that in a couple of instances, players were betting the under. And in one case, an Iowa State player bet against the Cyclones. And, all of that has created quite a bit of a hullabaloo. And certainly it's been national news. ESPN's picked it up. But I thought something else, that you hear, and Ferentz has said, it's not just University of Iowa and it's not just Iowa State where this is happening. College campuses, college athletes all over the country are engaged, with gambling in some form. The percentage of them, who knows? But, if you're 21 years old, you can legally bet in some states, in quite a few states actually now. I think it's, I don't know what the number is. I think it's well over 25. And so, the question out there is, how long is it going to be or who's going to be next? And, I just found it ironic that it happened in Iowa, where, gambling has really taken off in recent years, and sports betting is still relatively new over here. But nonetheless, you got a bunch of players that are in trouble, and I kind of agree with you, Roger. Maybe they can give Iowa the Pete Rose Trophy. Yeah, I think that would be appropriate. I would be more than willing to join in that presentation. That would be kind of fun. Fred, you're gonna kind of mix up a couple of trophies. You got the Pete Floyd of Rosedale Trophy. that'd be kind of cool. I'm trying to imagine what that trophy might look like if you combine Pete Rose and good old Floyd. Pulling that off, gonna bring in a Michigander, Chris Terry, Michigan fan here. I believe Nebraska is going to win the West this year. You have had the talent and now a great coach to direct them to their great winning history again. Chris, if hopefully that's not sarcasm. Could be. I'm not quite sure if Nebraska is going to be there yet. I am being optimistic. I was going to, if we don't have anything else to fill time here, I was going to go through game by game with what my thoughts would be. Anyway, I think Nebraska is going to be a better team this year. I really hope they are. I guess, we're going to see. Time's going to tell. Dion, I don't know if you've got some sage that you can burn, if you've got some chicken bones that you can throw, whatever you might have to take the jinx off now that we've got a positive vibe from Michigan fans. So, Dion, I'm going to put you in charge of taking care of the juju tonight and making certain that our friend to the north and east of us doesn't put the jinx on us. Let's see. What else do we have here? Chris does say no sarcasm. By the way, I guess I got that goofy ass. I got my spotted cow, fresh from Wisconsin, working on that. Next week is going to be focusing in on trashing Iowa. We hope that all of you will join us. I'm sure that John will be primed, and I'm fired up for taking shots at the Hawkeyes anytime. As we kind of move into the last 15 minutes or so of this program, I think I'll say my predictions. We've got a few other things that we can chat about here. There's quite a few of you here tonight, and out of curiosity, I'm wondering, here's my question for you. Have you been a Nebraska fan? No, I'm going to rephrase the question. Have you always been a Nebraska fan? Are you an individual from the get-go, from the time that you were a little one all the way through? Have you been a lifelong Nebraska fan? How long have you been a Nebraska fan? What made you become a Nebraska fan? And as I'm waiting to see what comments come through here, what experiences you have, I'm gonna and I don't know if I shared this on this podcast before. I became a Nebraska fan in 1981 when I was 20 years old. Prior to that, I was born and raised in Iowa, and I was a hardcore Iowa State fan, Cyclone fan. And there were two things on this planet that I hated. I hated the Iowa Hawkeyes, and I hated the Nebraska Cornhuskers. And that's because I was an Iowa State Cyclone, and those Cyclones, they didn't win a whole lot. They won a bit when Johnny Majors was around, and then when Earl Bruce was there back in the day. They made, I remember the first bowl games they went to, the Sun Bowl, the Liberty Bowl. I got to go to the Liberty Bowl when I was a little guy. But I didn't become a Nebraska fan until 1981 when I transferred to Nebraska my second year of college. And like any place I've ever been, be true to your school. I became a Nebraska Cornhusker, and for the next 40 years of my life, they've been my number one team. So it looks like that Linda probably has me beat. She's been around for quite a while, and she's been a Cornhusker her entire life. Roger has always been a fan as well. And it looks like quite a few of you have been fans most of your lives. And I've tossed this around quite a bit. When people become fans of teams, kind of later on, is that any different than being a fan from the get-go, I guess? And when I was a little guy, I went, the first football game I ever went to was, I was probably 8 years old. And, I think when you're that age, obviously, you're aware of sports and you start picking your favorites. In my case, I was definitely an Iowa State Cyclone, but when I came to Nebraska, they became my team because that's who I was. I want to also mention, too, that I came to Nebraska before I went to the university. We'd come over for the Nebraska State Fair. My dad was hired oftentimes to judge in the livestock shows. And so we'd come over here, and it just always struck me, how big the football program was and how everyone was a Nebraska fan. And when you go out, shopping, or when you're in the malls on a Saturday, the game is pumped in, the grocery stores, the drugstores. You can't go anywhere on a Saturday in this state and not hear that. And then my mom had a observation one time about how on Saturday mornings, it's just, you may not even be planning to go to a game, but in Saturday mornings, moms would dress their young kids in Nebraska gear. So I think that's one of those things too, that makes being a Nebraska Cornhusker, really kind of special. And to some extent it separates, Nebraska fans from others. So, and a couple of things that I'll throw up here. Fred, you were in the bowl it says Fred, first memory is 1984 Orange Bowl loss, saw grown men cry, others hanging over the rail of my parents' deck vomiting. That's what I thought a hangover was. Well, Fred, I remember that 1984 game, and I was crying too. Then here's a memory for me too. Roger Moore says, Todd was in the stands for Mad Mike. Yes, I was. Yes, I was. And we were dedicated Mad Mike fans. When he'd come up, we'd raise our mixed drinks to the sky and cheer along with Mad Mike. And, he was quite the character. Mad Mike and Husker Bob. Dion, there's no more famous call than man, woman, and child. He put them in the house. They have all these things, through these gates past the greatest fans in college football. Somewhere that statement needs to be carved. That statement should be carved in stone somewhere, because I don't think that there's been many other comments made relative to Nebraska football and Nebraska sports that's any more famous than good old Lyle Bremser and his statement back then. Let's see here. Been since Wade Farr says, been since I was born. My mom was a Nebraska fan and always listened to every Saturday. And to me, that kind of epitomizes the Nebraska fan. James Marshall says, I was a Nebraska admirer from afar. They kicked everybody's butt, and my team, Kentucky, didn't. I'm still a Kentucky fan, but Nebraska is a fascination for me. And I think it's interesting you say that, because I think Nebraska is a fascination for a lot of fans. Another question I was going to ask and was, okay, so we're all Nebraska fans, or most of us are Nebraska fans. There's a Michigan fan here, Colorado fan, et cetera. So who's your number two? And, maybe Nebraska isn't necessarily a number two for a lot of people, but I do think that there are a lot of people that are kind of fascinated by the team. And, a lot of that in my mind was generated by the fan base and the commitment to the team, through the years. So Donnie Dre, well, I guess Don Dre, I knew him as Donnie Dre 54 years ago, probably. Don, that's you're same age as me, so I kind of can relate to that. But you were I was that Iowa kid that came from the side of the river, so you got a little bit of a jump on me there. Let's see, Fred, I like this comment here. I'm intrigued by it. Fred Sacco says, I used to try and rank fandom. I've been a fan since forever versus Johnny come lately. But when people jump team to team by recent success, those people suck. And I agree with that. There are those folks that jump from team to team. And, I've been a Nebraska fan, since, for 41 years now, I guess, actually. But I'm still loyal to Iowa State as well. I can sing the fight song, and I won't do that tonight. I can sing the fight song from both schools. And I have degrees. I have diplomas on my wall from both of those institutions as well. So, I'm kind of with you, Fred. The person who's always been there compared to the person that's come on relatively recent, I kind of, to me, that's kind of hard to rank a little bit, but I agree with the bandwagon jumpers, those that jump on and jump off. And, we've certainly seen some of those people in the last few years, where they've kind of walked away from the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and we'll see if they come back, if the team starts turning it around a little bit. Scrolling that. This is great. There's a lot of stuff. I wish John was here so I could read comments a little bit quicker. So then let's see here. Brangus McGee says, Todd, what has kept you a Nebraska fan? Well, they're my school. I'm an alum. They're the team that I follow. And, I think the biggest thing that has kept me on board is that Nebraskans are loyal. And while, I really, I still can't consider myself a Nebraskan because I've only lived in Nebraska for 4 years. The rest of my existence, I've lived elsewhere. But that loyalty and loyalty's always been important to me. A few of you know that for many, many years, I was a high school teacher, coach, and a principal. And when I took my first job, I was a Galvin Holstein Pirate. My second job, I was a Sheraton Charger. My third job, I was a Wall Lakeview Auburn Wolverine. Then I became a Creston Panther, and finally I finished up as a North Fayette Valley Tigerhawk. And I'm still loyal to those schools. I was an Oakland Yellow Jacket. And, to me, that attachment to a community, attachment to a team, attachment to a program, I think is important. It's been frustrating watching Nebraska play football. There's no doubt about it. But, I'm not a football only guy. I cheer for a lot of Nebraska sports, and we've had some successes that kind of offset maybe the frustrations with the football teams. So anyway, I like this. Dion, I'm still here out of a sense of belonging with people I sometimes have nothing in common with. And I think that's, I kind of think that's true about, cheering for a sport, cheering for a team. That sense of belonging to a community and being part of that. So, I can identify with as well. Let me see here. A couple of other things Let's see. Um, Over on my list, let's wrap this up here with kind of a short little back and forth, if we can, a little bit, just to kind of get a sense of the breadth of college athletics, maybe a little bit. Um, if you could go watch a college football game in any college football stadium, and it could be Nebraska playing in that stadium, or maybe it's not. Maybe you just would want to go to that stadium to experience, the game day atmosphere. If you could pick any college football stadium that would be on your bucket list, what is the one at the top of the list? And as I'm waiting for you guys to post here a little bit, because I am kind of curious about this. I was able to check one of my bucket list stadiums off. A number of years ago, and the only part of it was that it was an afternoon game, not a night game. My true bucket list was I wanted to go to a night game in Tiger Stadium down in Baton Rouge and watch LSU play a night game in Tiger Stadium. But a number of years ago, I was able to go down and I watched LSU play Arkansas on a Saturday. Actually, it was the same day that Colorado steamrolled Nebraska. Oh my God, was that horrible. We came into the locker room after the game, and that's a whole different story, but into the athletic training room. And we were in the athletic training room down in Baton Rouge, and all these LSU players were looking over our shoulders watching TV, and just they couldn't believe that Colorado was just smacking Nebraska. But I was able to check that one off my list. And so, Fred mentioned that. Linda, throws out Notre Dame. I've been there when it's been empty. I've never been there for a game. The one that still is on my list, the one I want to go see, and maybe some of you have been there, and if you have, I'm a little bit jealous. I want to go down to Kyle Field. I want to see what it's like at Texas A&M with all those goofy traditions that they have. I would love to watch a game down there. I'm not a Texas Aggie fan by means, but that would be my bucket list place that I still have on my list. John Schmidt throws out Memorial Stadium in Lincoln for me. I've never been. Well, John, hopefully someday you can experience that, because Memorial Stadium is when the team's playing well, it's a lot of fun to be in Memorial Stadium. So hopefully that happens for you at some point in time. Roger Moore mentions Washington. Well, they're going to come into the conference, so you might have an opportunity to get out there. So good luck to you on that. Coming back to Memorial Stadium, I have to agree with you, James. Honestly, Nebraska's night game, when they're in the mix for a natty, is tops. Memorial Stadiums, night games in Memorial Stadiums are fun. I have to say that. Yeah, let's all chip in to get Todd to A&M. I tell you what, that someday I want to get there. I want to be there. Linda Wilkins has been to the Horseshoe. I watched a high school state championship game in the Horseshoe one year, the day after Thanksgiving, when my brother was in vet school at Ohio State University. And so the day after Thanksgiving, I was still in town, and I saw a guy who became pretty famous at Ohio State. Carlos Snow was a high school senior that year, and I watched him play in the state championship game. So anyway, well, folks, we're at an hour. I guess I can talk almost nonstop for an hour. I knew I could do that being a former school teacher. I can ramble on, and I appreciate everyone showing up tonight. I appreciate the you made. I'm excited about the season is getting so close. I'm really excited. Going to few days at the end of the month, and we're going to go up to the Lake Superior region up in northern Minnesota, up around Duluth and Two Harbors, and see some of that up there, and then finish our little Minnesota soiree on the 31st. We'll be in the stadium cheering on the Huskers, and hopefully they come. I've got a lot of confidence. I don't know what other people think, and I'm sure we'll make predictions the Monday before the first game, but I have a lot of confidence in Nebraska. I think maybe they're offers more than what some people expect. So anyway, hey, appreciate you all very much. It's great being able to come up and talk at you and talk with you and some thoughts and ideas with you every Monday night. So John will be back next week. And until then, go Big Red.